right, I would like to do a moment of silence for Seb retiring.
All right, welcome back to Break Check. This is episode unknown. Me and Megan decided to not look it up, so it'll be in the title. But yeah, we're coming to you right after the Hungarian Grand Prix. We will get into our race recap like normal. A lot of stuff to talk about. First, the big news of the week: Sebastian Vettel creating an Instagram and then promptly retiring from F1, as Megan just let us all know from the moment of silence at the beginning. Megan, this is your boy. I will let you take it from here.
Thanks, Juan. Yeah, so I swear in an interview somewhere at some point, Seb had said, like jokingly, that he would create an Instagram when he retires. So as soon as I saw that he had created one, it was kind of like an oh no, and I just like shut my phone off and went to bed. And when I woke up, that was the very first thing I saw. So very much wanted to sleep after. But I mean, I think it's not that surprising, even though I want him to stay. I think the team is not giving him what he thought he was going to get with Aston Martin, and he had already so much frustration with Ferrari and just like their strategy and team after a few seasons there. So I hope slash think he's going to take a year or two off, maybe do something else, maybe just spend the time with his family, and then come back when either a new team enters the sport or just when another team is better and has an opening. Because I don't think he's done. His post kind of sounded like he was, the race isn't over, the best race is yet to come. So I think he'll do an Alonso or a Mick Schumacher or Michael Schumacher, where they both like were out of it for a little bit and then came back. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for, but I don't know.
Yeah, Seb is one of the greatest drivers in F1 history. I feel like across all sports, a lot of the great ones don't really know when to hang it up. And a lot of times when they do, they just end up coming back, in a couple years. I do think, like you said, I hope too he comes back. I think he still has some racing left in the tank. I think the Aston Martin team might not have much racing left in the tank. And also Sebastian Vettel stands for a lot more than just being a race car driver. He has a lot of other interests from an environment, sustainability, conservation standpoint. And I think the platform that Formula One provides him for those things is valuable in a sense outside of racing. And I think because those are things I think both me and you agree with him on, and like that he champions all the time. I would like to see him continuing to have a platform for those things. So like I also hope he comes back.
Yeah, I think, it'll happen hopefully in a few years. I like that at least now he has an Instagram so we can still keep up to date with what he's doing and follow all the amazing work that he's done slash will continue to do. Going into who might replace him, I know there's a lot of speculation about it possibly being Mick, and there's also rumors of him not re-signing with his Ferrari contract for the next year, which would then, because Ferrari has some influence with the Haas seat, that would then possibly open up Mick's seat and possibly let him move into Aston Martin. I don't know your thoughts there. I know I have some. But
yeah, so I think this opens up, we'll get into like the other driver rumors after, but this opens up a conversation about just what's going to happen to the Aston Martin team. Aston Martin is a great brand, historical brand, a brand that I would like seeing on the grid and I think should be on the grid, but that doesn't really mean anything when Lawrence Stroll is in charge because he is such a wild card. He essentially brought Aston Martin back from the Formula One grave onto the grid, but he's also, him and his son feel like the reason that the team cannot get to where they should be. In the past, as Racing Point and Force India, they've had some good cars, like decent midfield cars, but this year the car just not it. And part of the reason I think Seb is retiring, we might touch on it later, might not, but Porsche just bought half of Red Bull Racing, which was expected. maybe not half of the team, but we've known that the Volkswagen Group has been targeting 2026, the next kind of big regulation change, as an
Mhm.
entry point into F1. So we know Porsche is entering with Red Bull. I think it makes sense for Audi to enter with Aston Martin. Whether that is a full takeover and it just becomes the Audi F1 team, or if it becomes
Mhm.
Audi Aston Martin, we're gonna have another German team on the grid. Mick Schumacher, the German driver, on the grid. I think, I think it makes sense, but the timing is weird because I think
Yeah.
Audi will enter in 2026, and that's still a ways down the
Away.
road, both for Mick
Mhm.
to go over to Aston Martin because he would be racing as Aston Martin for a bit, which
Mhm.
I know you do not want. The team is not great.
No.
And it's a little bit far down the way for Seb to come back because I think Audi would want an all German team if possible.
Yeah, going into that, I think, I think it is a bit soon for Mick to enter Aston Martin and the chance that Audi is coming in. I think what would be good is if Audi came in as an engine supplier now, for the 2023, 2024 season, in that range. I think that would be super beneficial. And I think that would make sense if they were eventually going to take over the team. Although it could just also be a placeholder team until Audi comes in as its own team. I think some of these teams like Porsche and Audi are having maybe backing out at the idea of coming in as a brand new team, just seeing the struggles that Andretti's having with trying to open up their own team. But if Andretti can do it, then I think it will, give Audi or, one of those teams like a reason to come in as its own team. And if that's the case, I could see them bringing on Sud and Mick for, to be a duo, which would be incredible. And I really hope it happens. But I agree, like, it is a weird timing, it seems a little too soon, and I think Mick with the Strolls just doesn't really make sense because it's going to be the same it is with Seb, where they're still prioritizing Stroll. Stroll is getting, the upgrades first, and he's not really participating. I think the only benefit in it is if Mick comes in and well outperforms Stroll, and then that forces him out, similar to how it was with Latifi, where Albon came in and is just doing like miles better than Latifi. So it's kind of like, why is he still here at this point? And I think it has to be like that for the Strolls to finally come out.
Yeah, definitely. I think I like I said, I think the Strolls are the wild card here. It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy that they're like what's holding up a lot of like potential big F1 shakeups. I think what makes the most sense is, like you said, come in as an engine supplier in 2023, and then maybe with the new regulations in 2026, just do like a full takeover of the team. So just kind of like a gradual progress. I think it
Hmm.
helps the driver change timeline if they want Mick and eventually Seb on that German Audi team.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of things just kind of hanging in the balance, and it feels like we're just waiting for that first domino to fall.
Yeah. But in terms of other drivers that could be in that seat, I think Nick DeVries would be my number one pick just because he, like we've mentioned in the last two episodes or last episode, that he really should have a F1 seat. It's kind of a shock to us that he's not in it yet. And with Piastri likely going to Williams, that leaves, we don't have to worry about Piastri not having a seat. There's
Yeah.
still an open possible seat for DeVries. So I think he would be a great pick. I know a couple people brought up Hulkenberg as well. And while I do like him and I miss him in F1, I think at this point we need to start giving other people a chance. And I don't think Hulkenberg is going to bring an exponential performance to where it's worth not giving, some of these other guys an opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that if Aston Martin gets too far into the season without finding their replacement for Seb, I do think it will be Nico Hulkenberg, just because
Mhm.
he's been the reserve driver. I think he's an easy
Yeah.
stopgap while they figure out what they want. I like you said, I don't think he's the best option, but I think he might be a likely option if they don't figure out or get what they want right away.
Which, I mean, Aston Martin is always going to take the easy route when you have the Strolls. So they're just going to skimp out on whatever, which would be
Yeah,
picking Hulkenberg. So
yeah.
we'll see.
I thought it was kind of kind of crappy that Daniel Ricciardo started getting questions about taking the Aston Martin seat next year after already going through the last 2 weeks he had with driver rumors. Like, come on. I don't
But
know if you saw his response.
he already
Yeah.
said that he was going to stay with McLaren. So the fact that people are even like, oh yeah, he might have the seat. No, he won't. He's with McLaren until the end of 2023. Leave it alone. Leave him alone. Just let it go. Give the guy a break.
I don't know if you saw his response when asked about it. He was like, Crofty, have you seen my interviews for the last like 2 weeks? Yeah, a lot of stuff just up in the air right now. Silly season in full effect.
Silly season.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We could probably get into qualifying unless there was something else you wanted to talk about.
No, qualifying's
Okay.
good.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, real quick, wanted to highlight that Latifi got fastest in free practice 3 on inters, which I thought was iconic for him. Everyone was struggling in the wet. But yeah, so that was really cool to see. And then even in qualifying, he was purple in the first sector, I think green in the second sector, and then he just lost it in the third and ended up, qualifying 20th, which just like really nails it on the head for him.
Yeah. Latifi masterclass. I overslept a little bit for qualifying, so I only caught Q3. But the first thing I saw was Megan's text that he had gone P1 in Q3. Megan had a typo. She meant FP3.
FP3.
And I immediately I just got online and I was looking. I was like, there's not a chance. Not a chance. But no, yeah, you know what? I will give him his props. As the last couple of weeks, he has been driving better.
Yeah, I will say I think there's a bit of a fire up his ass in terms of performance. I think also he kind of knows it's inevitable he's leaving. So I think he just really wants to give it his all. And now he's like pretty much performing for whatever other motorsport he's going into, right? Like he has to look at his other options now. I kind of see him doing a Giovinazzi route where he goes into Formula E.
I think Latifi could do well in Formula E.
I think so too. I think he would enjoy it, honestly. So we'll see. But
yeah.
I mean, especially if side note, sorry, if Nick DeVries, because Mercedes is leaving Formula E and McLaren bought their team. So Nick DeVries will either then race with McLaren or go somewhere else. So it'd be great to see him come into F1, and then maybe Latifi would then enter the new McLaren team. Maybe.
Yeah, and I'm not as well versed in Formula E, so I'm actually not versed at all in Formula E, so I might be wrong here, but I imagine there's not as much money in it as F1. So if a team sees Latifi as a potential money opportunity, I think it's worth exploring, and I would like to see him keep racing. As we've said, he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, I mean, I like him. He's Canadian. He seems,
he's nicer than the other Canadian.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. But not as bad as an accent, I will say. I think Stroll has the thickest Canadian accent I've heard.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so qualifying got a little bit weird. Do you want to lead off there?
I mean, I'll just highlight some of the main things that I remember, which was I think Norris did incredible this weekend. Yeah. I will say, and he did say in a interview over the weekend that even he is really struggling still with his car, and he's had to really adapt his driving style, which he, one, does not like, and two, it's still not entirely working. So I know I had highlighted this in our predictions, which we'll also be doing an episode during the summer break, going back, looking at our predictions from the beginning. But I know I had predicted that some of these older drivers are going to really struggle this year with adapting to the new cars. And I think in some aspects that's still true, because some of the cars, like I think have just changed so much in terms of their driving style. And I think the McLaren has changed the most, where it's forcing both of them to change. And Daniel, having been in the sport for 10 years now or so, I think is having a much more difficult time than drivers like Alonso, who maybe does have a little bit more experience when it comes to change, because he was out of Formula One for a little bit, drove different cars, then came back. So you're really noticing how quickly these drivers can adapt.
Yeah, definitely. Something I would like to see with Lando, I think he had a quote saying that the McLaren is very fast, but it's hard to drive.
Mhm.
I think if Lando wants to be just one of the better drivers in F1, which I think he is and can be, I
Mhm.
think you want your team to adapt to your driving style. But if they give you a fast car, I think I would like to see him really get a handle on it for the rest of
Mhm.
this season, and then maybe just come out firing on all cylinders next season.
I think we'll see a lot more of him next season in the hopes and also just like wildly assuming that McLaren kind of gets it together a little bit more, that their team, is just a little bit more kind of, together, and
Mhm.
the team or the drivers and the car are a little bit working a little bit better together, and it doesn't take so much adapting because it'll be a year already with the new cars. I think we'll see them a lot more, in that P4, P3 range next year.
Might I add to, it is actually very nice to see Lando and Daniel like genuinely getting along,
Yeah.
because it has their relationship has been testy at the best
Hmm.
and bad at the worst. So I mean, part of it too is Daniel's not really a huge threat to Lando at the
Hmm.
moment, because I know
Hmm.
Lando knows if anything he's on his way out. But it is, I think it's better for the team that they are getting along.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. I think really all of the teams this year have driver pairings that get along, which you haven't really seen that in a while, I think.
I think
I feel like it's usually one team that has a massive issue with their two drivers.
I don't know that Aston Martin's pairing gets along the best.
Okay, no, you're right. You were right. I
Yeah.
don't think Vettel and Stroll are best friends.
Yeah, no, I honestly do not think they talk like
No,
outside of like team meetings.
well, and that's why I also side note, I'm a little surprised that Vettel even went with Aston Martin knowing the Strolls, because I just don't I never would have seen them getting along.
Yeah.
I understood why he was leaving Ferrari just out of frustration, but I would have seen him gone to like even Alfa Romeo or something else had there been a seat open. But
Yeah. Yeah, so then we can talk about Ferrari going 2-3,
mhm.
Carlos 2, Charles 3, uh Checo not getting out of Q2 into 11th, and then Max having power unit issues,
Yeah.
qualifying 10th. And then out of nowhere, George Russell takes a P1.
I mean, no, it was shocking. I was so happy for Sainz when I thought he had podium, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you just see Russell's name like shot up, and I was like, "What do you mean?"
Yes, yeah. And then worth noting, Lewis had a DRS issue, so he didn't really
Mhm.
get a lap in at the end. So I think he qualified
Seven.
P7.
Yeah.
But George Russell's maiden pole, great lap. The Mercedes, once again, has been the trend for the last couple weeks on the
Mhm.
upward swing.
I think we'll see a lot more of Mercedes up in front the remainder of the season, and it's going to make the rest of the season very interesting between those three teams.
Yes, I don't have anything else for qualifying.
No, I was really happy for Joe because he didn't make it into Q3. I think he was like 10 or 11, or no, he was 12. He
Yeah.
finished P12 in qualifying, but he was so happy. Like, I don't know if you heard
Yes, he
his radio,
was.
but he
I
was
heard his
like,
video. Yeah, no, he's had a rough couple weeks ever since the
mhm,
crash.
yeah.
I'm glad to see him just getting out there, putting down some laps, just some consistency back on the
Yeah.
track. So yeah, like we said, Checo did not get out of Q3. Max with the power issue finished P10 or started the race P10.
Mhm.
So I was not expecting a Max Verstappen win today. But
I genuinely thought it was Mercedes and Ferrari, and like I thought it was guaranteed like their
yeah,
opportunity to not mess it up and get all the points that they can, because even in the beginning Verstappen had said fail like something was failing,
yeah,
whatever 20 was failing. So I was like,
yeah.
"Oh yeah, they're screwed."
Yeah, the beginning of this race was pretty unassuming. George was up front, the Ferraris were moving together, and then Checo, Max, and Lewis were all just kind of picking off the midfield as they went. Um, ah, another Ferrari weekend.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. That sucked. I will say I feel for Charles so much because yes, like the last race, I think it was a bit on Charles's with the throttle, but this he had, again, like very little control over. They pitted him, put him on hards that had no grip. The track was a little slippery, and you had the Red Bulls right behind him. You had Hamilton, I think, was right behind him, or Russell. One of the Mercedes was right behind him
Yeah.
too. And so you're throwing him into this traffic with no grip. And these guys are all on either softs or mediums. And so it was almost no problem for them to pass. And it was just, it totally ruined his race. I think Charles would have been on podium for sure, if not winning, had it not been for those hard tires and then having to pit him a third time.
I have no idea why they did not pit him with Carlos's strategy. And also, when they did pit him to put him on the hards, they thought there might be rain coming up. They would have had to pit him again if it started raining. That would have been a fourth pit.
Oh my God. I don't know. I genuinely don't know what they were thinking. I saw Binotto left the pit wall before the race,
Yes.
and it was like lap 60 or
Yes.
something. And I think him and Charles are going to have a great, intense conversation after this race. And then I hope the whole team, I have my pen now. I hope the whole team takes a little break and gets their crap together and comes back, and Charles can win the next race. Like, I hope he wins Spa. I genuinely hope he wins Spa because I think he needs it for his mental health.
He also we could talk about this. He also needs it for the standings.
Yeah.
We had a bit of a back and forth discussion about whether Perez can pass Leclerc, and I was fighting for my life in our group chat. And then you texted me on the side and went, "Oh man, he's only 5 points behind." So yes, Perez is only 5 points behind Leclerc. And as I went back and checked, because let me be clear, this is not me saying that Perez is a better driver than Leclerc. Leclerc is one of the superstars in F1. But if we're just talking about if Perez is going to pass him, it's just going to take one more DNF from Charles.
Yeah.
And Charles has been the second best driver on the grid this year. He has the second most amount of wins. But with all that into consideration, Ferrari has been so bad that head to head, Perez is up 7-6 on Charles this season.
Mm-hmm. There's so much weighing on these next few races for Ferrari that they really have no more room for error. They've used up all of the little room that they had left. And if they're not going to give Charles a championship, they at least need to let him have P2. And that's only going to happen if they stop fucking up pretty much. I mean, I still think, if Perez is still struggling with the car a little bit, yes. And I think maybe the break will be good for him and maybe he'll come back and have a better grip on it. But at the same time, if Charles, as long as Ferrari doesn't do anything wrong, I think it'll be no problem for Charles to be ahead. But it's really whether at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what the team is deciding to do. However, I don't think the Red Bull car is as reliable as we think it is. I mean, especially with some of the issues that Verstappen was having, I think that kind of raises some concern for the next race. So I'm kind of predicting a DNF from a Red Bull in Spa. And, I think that'll really help Ferrari, but I don't know.
See, here's my thing, right? Perez has been bad the last couple of weeks. He needs to be better. He needs to get back closer to Max, how he was earlier in the year. And he needs to figure that out. But my thing when we're talking about who's going to finish ahead in the drivers' championship and the constructors, when Red Bull has good weekends, they win. When Ferrari has good weekends, they win. When Red Bull has bad weekends, they win as well. Checo started in 11th today, and while struggling, beat Charles. That is how much Ferrari is shooting themselves in the foot. I don't know. I think he's going to get past.
All right. And this is where we want anyone else who's listening's opinion, because I still think, even with Ferrari disappointing everyone every single day of this year, I still think Charles will end up with the P2 spot in the championship. So let us know if you think it'll be Checo or Charles. My vote's on Charles. I know yours is on Checo.
I don't even know if my vote is on Checo. I think my vote is not Charles. because, and we can segue this into talking about Mercedes.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between first and second, Verstappen and Leclerc, is 80 points right now. The
Mm-hmm.
difference between second to sixth, which is Leclerc to Hamilton, is 30 points right now.
32.
32, sorry.
But I mean, still.
Yeah. So I think anyone from second, which is Charles, to Carlos, to Checo, to George, to Lewis, I think any of them can finish second. We can talk about Mercedes now. George with his maiden pole, Lewis with his 5th podium in a row. They're going to be, I think they're going to be the team to watch for the rest of this season, now that Red Bull seemingly has both championships locked up.
Yeah. I think George will be a huge challenge for next year. I think Hamilton could be it too, but George has been by far one of the most impressive drivers this season, and I think he's a very strong contender. I think he's only 20 points behind Charles for second. So, like you said, if it's not Checo, I think it's going to be George, because I think George has been the most consistent guy this year. And now that Mercedes has a little bit more pace, I think they'll just continue to score podiums. Now, I don't think they're the fastest car by any means. You could see that in the race today. They were definitely struggling with the pace, but yeah, I was very, very impressed with them this weekend.
Yeah, I think I think George is going to be great for just his whole career. I do think George has a driver championship in his future at some point. As for this year, I know he is my favorite driver, and I know I'm biased, but I do think Lewis Hamilton is going to finish ahead of George in the driver championship. I think George has been awesome, but I think the lead we still see that George has is just that George had such a better start than Lewis to the season. Lewis has been slowly just kind of reeling him in for the last 4 weeks, and he has been the faster driver for the last month or so.
That's true. Yeah.
I do think they'll finish very close, because I don't think, any given week, Lewis will gain maybe 2-3 points on him, because George is also podiuming. I don't know if podiuming is a word.
No, it is.
Yeah, George is at worst finishing 6th place. So I think it'll be a slow battle to the end. They don't seem to be fighting each other too much. That feels like the most cohesive team in terms of driver pairing.
Yeah, I think they both respect each other greatly, which is really good to see, especially with that team, just given its history with its drivers. Yeah. And like I had said earlier too, with drivers having to adjust, I think a lot of those older drivers who've been in it for 10 or so years, I think have had a harder time adjusting. And you saw that with Daniel, you saw that with Hamilton, especially too. So I think now that he's getting the hang of his car and that the car is doing a bit better, I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if Hamilton ended up passing George, just because he does have the pace and he has the years of experience. Yeah. And I do think Hamilton is still one of the greatest drivers ever. I don't think he's, falling back. So yeah.
I'll go on record and say he is the greatest driver. Regardless, we don't have to get into that right now. Yeah, also worth noting, early in the season, when Mercedes couldn't figure out the car, I think Lewis's car was the one that was getting all the weird adjustments. Just his was just the test car. So worth keeping that. And I know he got a little frustrated at times with it, but Mercedes has been great. I think next season is going to be so exciting with the top 3.
Yeah, I can't wait for next season, because they're going to be way closer. Now that they're all kind of getting the hang of what they need to do, some of the regulations are going to get updated. And they'll be a little bit more adjusted. Yeah, I think, and like they said too, it's going to get closer every year. Was pretty much guaranteed that it'll just continue. Yeah. So, but seeing it play out now is way more exciting. So,
yeah, definitely. I think that covers most of the kind of top teams for the race. I don't know if there's any midfield call outs, backfield call outs you wanna touch on.
Yeah, I wanted to briefly touch on McLaren again. I think it was great to see Daniel to have a double overtake against both Alpines when he came back. I think that was pretty impressive, but then almost immediately or shortly after had a 5-second penalty because
Yeah.
he was thrown after, pitting into a bunch of traffic, hit the back of Stroll, I mean, it was at the end of the day on Daniel, but I do think it was a bit kind of just poor timing where he was
Yeah.
placed after pitting. And then Norris, I think great race from him. I don't think he could have done any better with the car he had.
Yeah, no, Lando's been great the last couple weeks. McLaren has been on the up and up. I think they're gonna have a hard battle for fourth with Alpine for the
Oh
rest of the
yeah,
season. Alpine just kind of doing their
doing their
usual.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're they were up there. They were definitely like the top midfield. They had a better speed than McLaren, although Norris was able to hold them off, which I thought again was really impressive on his part. Yeah, excited to see more battles between those two teams this season. And then again, more unfortunate luck for AlphaTauri. Tsunoda spun out pretty early on, ruined his race, and then Williams was having some issues. Haas was pretty low; they were having some issues. I know Magnussen had some,
Mhm.
um, I think some damage or debris issues. Well, I think in his front wing. So yeah, I know Magnussen had the upgrades this weekend too, so it's no surprise that he was a little bit ahead of Mick Schumacher just because with all of Mick's crashes he didn't get the upgrades, but
Yeah, yeah, I can't imagine why. I think touched on the rest of the teams pretty well. I will say AlphaTauri continues to be the most disappointing team on the grid for
yeah,
me. I don't think I saw Pierre Gasly on my TV one time today.
no,
I,
they did not show him at all. There was nothing happening
he
there.
was just participating the whole time, just going out for a cruise. I think Yuki has a lot of potential. And Pierre has proven to be one of the better drivers on the grid, who's just kind of waiting for that opportunity, similar to George.
hmm
Uh, I I just, as the Red Bull Junior team and the Red Bull car is so fast, I'd like to see their secondary team at least be a midfield team.
Yeah, I'm pretty shocked. I think other than being shocked at how poor McLaren was this year, I'm also shocked at how bad AlphaTauri is this year because
Yeah.
Gasly last year, like yes, AlphaTauri wasn't the best car last season, but Gasly was regularly in points last year and he was just knocking things out. And this season, you just hardly see them because their car is just so bad and just so far
Mhm.
behind. And I really hope they get it together for next season because yes, it's similar to George where he's just waiting for that opportunity, but pretty soon Gasly's going to miss like his prime time to
Yeah.
find that opportunity. And so it is like detrimental for him next year to enter into a good team, maybe McLaren, but if he does it, like I really it's a tough spot to be in because he's not getting to show off his best because the car is
Yeah.
just so bad.
I know this is probably just a knee jerk reaction and probably not what he wants to do, but Pierre's going to be, what, is he already 27?
No, he's 26 still.
He's 26
26
next season.
next season 27.
Yeah, he'll be 27 next season. I know he already resigned for next year, but I would not blame him if he just jumped to Aston Martin to just get out of the Red Bull program
Oh yeah.
and just open up his possibilities after that.
Honestly, like unless they're guaranteeing a better car for next year and like he already, knows that it's, whatever, but man, I really hope for him it works because it sucks to see right now. All right, well that was the Hungarian Grand Prix recap. We have the summer break now. Juan, any exciting plans for your break?
Yeah, so I went karting on sorry, not gas, fuel powered carts.
Okay.
I was corrected the other day because gas is farts in the UK, which gas is like the medical term for fart in the United States.
But like we call them gas cars. Do they not call their cars
No,
gas?
no, it's petrol.
Oh God. Okay, I can't. I have to remember that when I'm there.
Yeah, I think it was Eve who
Yeah,
was
Eve
like,
or Lydia were someone in that group chat said
yeah,
that
yeah. They lit
they
me
were
up for
making
saying
fun.
gas powered carts. Yeah, so I went for the first time yesterday. It was super fun. I already found out the next outing that my dad's car club has is August 27th. So I'll be doing that. getting more familiar. Not bad for my first time. Came in 10th out of 20. It was really fun. I'm really excited. But yeah, so I'll be karting. I think we're going karting, electric karting before you leave. And then my birthday is in about a month. So I'm excited for that. Turning 26, which is insane to say. Yeah, just I'm gonna be just kind of hanging around the next month. I've as many of you have noticed, probably I move around quite a bit, and I'm just kind of constantly going places, but it'll be nice to just kind of relax for a bit. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, this summer has been insane. I think it's flown by. So much has happened. There's been a lot going on, but August is pretty much my month of saying, see you laters to people and catching up with people I either haven't seen in a while, and or just like seeing people before I move to London. Again, like as many of you know, I'm moving to London in a little over a month now. So I will be missing probably the first, not the first race back, the second race back. Just because I'll be, in plane, moving, unpacking, all that jazz. But yeah, so this month will be both relaxing, packing, hanging out, just kind of relaxing. We have the karting, which I'm very excited for. Hopefully I'm not in last again. That would be really cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just excited to kind of chill for a little bit. But we'll be doing some episodes still. We're gonna enjoy the summer break as well.
Yes.
But we will also be doing some other series just while we are waiting for races. So we'll look back at our predictions. I know they're pretty embarrassing now, just already thinking about it. But we'll talk about that. We'll do a kind of mailbag. So if anyone listening has any questions, just either about Formula One, how we got into the sport, etc., what your favorite color is. I don't care what the question is. Just
I'll take any question.
Let us know. We'll answer them in that episode. Yeah, but yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, just hanging out. I think we both need it. What team do you think we're going to do on our get to know next? I don't know. We have that many left.
We don't have that many left. I don't think we haven't done McLaren. We haven't done Alfa Romeo. We haven't done Alpine. We haven't done, I think Alpine would actually be pretty interesting to do next. If you by far are more than welcome to take Alonso.
I can take Alonso. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. We can do that next.
Yeah. So all right, we'll do Alpine next. Some sad Alonso quotes came out recently. Where he was like, people asked him why he won't retire, and he was just basically like, I have nothing else in my life. Like, I've committed myself to this project with Alpine the last couple years. I have no family. I am going to keep going.
That was so depressing. When I read that, I was like, I actually kind of feel bad for the guy. My God. I mean, he is, very committed to the sport, and I'll give him a lot of props to that. He still has it in him. I know he does have a girlfriend, so maybe something will transpire from that. I hope so. He also just celebrated, I think, his 42nd birthday. So happy birthday, Alonso.
Other than that, I think we can probably wrap up for the day. If you've listened this far, thank you so much, as always. I don't know if we will be back directly next week or in like 10 days or in like 5 days. I don't really know.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out soon. Any parting words for our loyal listeners?
Sub fans, I hope you're okay. Charles fans, I hope you're okay. Mick fans, I hope you're okay. Daniel fans, I hope you're okay. I can keep going.
My parting words for our listeners, Charles Leclerc fans, if you have time and want to fight, DM me. I got you. I'll always respond. I'll never back down.
I'll never back down. All right. I hope everyone enjoys the break, though. We'll be back soon. Follow us on socials. We're always there.
Break Check F1.
Yep. Everyone.
All right. This has been the weirdest ending to an episode we've ever had.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go ahead and cue the music.